Right. I want to start off L'chaim. Today is a very, very special day in the Chabad calendar. Today is the day we celebrate the liberation of the second Chabad Rebbe, Reb Dave Ber Lubavitch, was released from prison. And again, the green light to study Chassidus, so it's very important we study Tanya and Chassidus. Gedem Tov L'chaim. Thank you, Ryan, as always, for sponsoring our alcohol addiction.
No.
God forbid.
It's not addiction.
No, God forbid. All right. So let's read the introductory note in the beginning of chapter 24. So in Perek Yud Ches in chapter 18, Alter Rebbe explains how it's very near for us to serve Hashem through Ava and Yira, love and fear, by saying every single Jew has this connection to Hashem. It's called Ava Musuteres, the hidden love, that this love is a result of the fact that you're born a Jew.
Musteret.
Hamsuteret. Not musteret. Hamsuteret.
Hamesuteret.
Yeah.
Okay. Mesuteret.
Yeah.
Not hamusteret.
No.
Mesuteret.
Yeah, you go back to the word, you'll see.
Wow, that is the first time.
And this can prevent, because every Jew has this hidden, inherent love. It'll stop a Jew from prevent him from violating God's will. I mean, the most extreme case is idolatry, but really you can utilize that hidden love, inherent, inborn love, in every circumstance. And we said, and how do you equate every sin, any sin, to idolatry? We said because what does sin mean? Sin means I can do whatever I want because God's not watching. That's pretty much idolatry. So you can use the same logic to stop yourself from doing sin. Now, in the previous parak, Alter Rebbe went out to say that through Torah mitzvahs, which is the divine will is reached, and whereas mitzvah joins one to Hashem, and when you learn Torah, you are one with God's will. Now it's time to do the other side of the coin. When a person does a mitzvah, he's joined to Hashem, right? He becomes one with Him. It's Hashem's will. You make yourself totally subservient. We said it's not really important, to the observer why Hashem did it. It's important to understand, but it's not. The most important thing is to observe and to do. So you are come one with Hashem's will. And when you learn Torah, you become one with Hashem's wisdom. What happens when a person doesn't have air, God forbid? Is it, God forbid? So is it that I'm just not joining? The Alter Rebbe is going to say, unfortunately, that's not the case. Mitzvah comes from the word tzavta, to bring us closer, and an avera serves, God forbid, to separate. And it makes sense, because if you think about it, in a human relationship, if I tell you, like for example, I've used this example many times, mostly because my wife doesn't watch this, so I can.
She does?
I don't think she does. But if she does, then she keeps quiet because I made fun of her plenty of times. No, but my wife has this thing. She hates cotton.
Cotton?
She hates
whatever.
No, like the raw cotton.
Yeah.
When we open up a package of pills,
Right.
Morty, take it out. Now, to me, I don't get it. To me, it makes no sense. And in fact, in the beginning, I didn't believe her. Like, what kind of nonsense is that?
It's okay.
But she doesn't like it. Doesn't like it.
No big deal.
Right, for whatever it is. It isn't a big deal. And to me, it doesn't make sense. But I want a relationship with her. So what I'm not going to do is, I'm not going to go and put cotton, in the bathroom. Why? Because I want a relationship with her. Because she doesn't like it. Now, to me, it doesn't make sense. But that's irrelevant. If I want a relationship with her, then I'm not going to do it. And if I do it, she's going to say, I hate it, so why do you do it? And then she's going to be angry at me. And then the relationship will be strained, and it'll be distant, because I don't like something, and you're doing it anyway. So Hashem says, you know what I don't like? I don't like pork, for example. And you say, but it tastes delicious. I understand. And you might not understand it, but I don't like it. I don't like when you act that way. It grosses me out.
That's why He created the fish Shibuta.
What?
Hashem created the fish Shibuta.
What is that?
in Hebrew it's called shibuta.
I don't know what it is.
It has the taste of a pig.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
I don't know what it is.
Fish tastes like pig.
That specific one. You can't eat it here. You can eat
Yeah.
it.
You know, by the
can
way,
have
you know,
taste
by the
from
way,
it.
on principle, I'm against faking.
Yeah.
I'm against faking. On principle. It's 100% kosher. Faking. You know, turkey bacon.
Yeah, it's turkey.
What's
bacon.
that?
Faking. Turkey bacon. They
Oh,
make turkey that tastes like bacon.
Oh.
It's called faking. You can
Yeah.
buy it. You can buy it in all the kosher stores. On principle, I don't buy it.
No.
What? Because if God said no, it's okay. I don't have to have it. It's okay. On principle, I don't care. You have.
What about all the others, like shrimp and things like that?
Yeah,
they,
but
that they
I don't.
sell in the store?
I don't think that tastes like. I don't think that it's meant to taste like it. I think it's meant just to.
There is a kosher version of these things.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
saw it. So I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
like, This is
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah. Anyway, we always have to realize that we are in a relationship with God. The mitzvah is to enhance it, and the avera compromises it. So for a person to think that I can act in a way that God finds, repulsive, thank you, the good word, and to think that my relationship is going to be exactly the same, you're being foolish. You have to treat God like you treat another person.
An animal has no ability or an animal soul has no ability to.
The animal soul has the ability to do. It has no ability to control. So your intellectual self or your godly self is supposed to direct it. Animal's not bad. Animal has to be directed. Animals aren't bad. Animals aren't evil. Your body isn't evil. The fact that your body wants to eat, it's not evil. The problem is your body doesn't know when to stop. What's the thing with the horses and the apples? Like it doesn't know when to stop. It'll keep eating itself to death, kind of thing, right? Right.
Dogs will do the same thing.
Right? Is dog being bad? No. It has no idea.
A few chapters ago, we even brought the example that for, let's say, mitzvat purvu, you
Yeah.
even need the animal to
Yeah,
fulfill that mitzvah.
yeah, you need. Yeah.
You need the
And
mitzvah.
your body is good. Without the body, the soul can't do a mitzvah. It needs it. The body's not bad, it just needs it. So just like in human relationships, halavai. By the way, when Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was on his deathbed, I'm pretty sure Rabbi Yochanan, the student asked him, "Give us one little nugget, one last nugget." He said, "Halavai, I wish it should be that your fear of heaven should be like the fear of man." So the student said, "That's it? That's it? Start there. Treat God like you treat other people. Kind, courteous, acknowledge the good, just like you wouldn't. Let's say, for example,
Like
right?
not 613 mitzvot,
Right.
just the 10 commandments.
No, but even so, no, 613. But by the way,
I'm
by
saying,
the way,
start.
no, by the way, 613 is a blown up number because most of the mitzvahs don't apply to everybody.
Of course.
You know what I'm saying?
In these days.
Especially these days. I'm saying it's not that, everyone goes crazy. 613. Relax. Some mitzvahs apply in the temple. Some mitzvahs apply, if you're a Kohen. It's not.
Some of them are only in Israel.
Yeah, I'm saying so. Some mitzvahs apply only once in 50 years. So, so not every mitzvah applies all the time. Some mitzvahs apply if you're a mitzorah. If you want to get divorced. I mean, not every mitzvah applies. So it's not. So the idea is you got to treat God like you're in a relationship, exactly like you're in a relationship. That's really what it is. If you want to be in a relationship with a person, that means you care about the other person's feelings or what the person likes. If you don't care, that's not a relationship. So God is a finicky, God is a delicate entity. He doesn't like it. Doesn't like mess. Doesn't like dirt. He doesn't. So God says, you don't want me around? No problem. I'll leave. But if we're going to be in a relationship, there's some rules. That's it. And the biggest problem is, and this is why I think we discussed this before, that a person only commits a sin when the spirit of stupidity enters him. Didn't we discuss that?
Folly. Yeah, folly.
Folly, big word, stupidity. Foolishness is a very big word. Foolishness. Why? Because to think that I can do something that I know you don't like, and our friendship is going to be exactly the same. I mean, come on. you know I don't like it. So don't do it. Either you care or you don't care. But to care and pretend it's not the same. So that's what we're going to say. So with the Alter Rebbe, this is one of my main messages of Tanya that I take away, is you got to be real. You want to fool yourself? As they say in Yiddish, gesunter hate. Gesunter hate means go ahead, right? No problem. But if you're going to be real, it's very clear. If you think of it in black and white, there is no gray, by the way. That's a fallacy that the world has created. That there's good, there's bad, and then there's regular. That's the problem. There's a story with Alter Rebbe. Next week, on Thursday night, I hope everyone comes. We're bringing out a speaker. We're making a farbrengen for the 19th of Kislev, when Alter Rebbe was released from prison. So the story goes that when they came on Sukkot to arrest Alter Rebbe, and Alter Rebbe escaped the back door of his house and ran into a field. And with him was one of his premier students. His name was Shmuel Munkus. And Alter Rebbe asked him, should I allow myself to be arrested? Now you have to realize the caliber of a person. Like you and me doesn't make a difference. Or like Luigi guy doesn't, right? And the guy
Arrested for what?
by the Russian government. The Russian government.
Yeah.
What happened was there were other people in the Jewish community slandered Alter Rebbe to the Russian government, saying that he was trying to uproot the Russian government. He was supporting Turkey, which was the enemy.
You know
Which-
Jews? Yeah.
Because they felt, like you were here in the first few classes, very quickly, they felt that Hasidism was a threat to Judaism. They saw Hasidism as outside this spectrum of Jewish observance. It was a fringe movement, and if you look at Jewish history, there was a movement in the 1500s of the Shabtai Tzvi. It was based on Kabbalah, and he told everybody he was the Messiah. And then he converted to Islam, and it was a massive calamity. So really, actually, the study of Kabbalah was outlawed for like 200 years. And Baal Shem Tov came, and they felt threatened by Hasidism. They thought they were doing a service. The Vilna Gaon passed away 1796, I believe. Sukkot, 1796, I believe. No, I know it was Sukkot. I think it was, and the whole story with Alter Rebbe happened 1797. The Vilna Gaon was vehemently anti-Hasidism, but it was an intellectual argument. But the students always are more fervent than the master. They wanted to shut down Hasidism, so they went to the Russian government and they came with a few claims. Like you learn Tanya, the Malchus. Malchut is the lowest
Sfira.
the lowest level. They say, you see, that Malchus means royalty, kingship. You see, Alter Rebbe calls royalty the lowest. These Russian guys they had no idea. So they wanted to arrest Alter Rebbe on treason. Actually, when they did arrest him, they came with a black carriage, which represented like the biggest, threat to the sovereignty of Russia. Anyway, so when they came the first time to arrest him, he was with Shmuel Munkus, and he asked Shmuel Munkus, should I allow myself to be arrested? Again, you're talking about Alter Rebbe, who's a tzaddik. A tzaddik is more up there than down here, so he can ask this kind of question. Shmuel Munkus answered him, says, Mamanavshach. Mamanavshach is like a Talmudic saying. So either way, if you're a tzaddik, then nothing can harm you. What are you worried about? You're up there. And if you're not a tzaddik, and if you're a fraud, then what right did you have to suck out all the enjoyment of the daily life from everybody? What Alter Rebbe is saying is there is no gray. There's black and white. Either you're doing it for yourself, or you're doing it for God. There is no gray. You're never just. Like I used to tell my students in school, the word just is a curse word. What do you mean just? Either you're being productive, or you're being lazy and destructive. And the fact of the matter is, if you look at this day, today it's Tuesday, December 10th, 9th of Kislev, you look back at your day and you judge yourself honestly. Look back. Was I constructive, productive, or not? By the way, it doesn't mean you have to be, white knuckled and pedal to the metal the whole time. Sometimes eating is not bad. Sometimes eat, but why eat? That's But let's get into chapter 24. We're getting too broad. Let's get into it. Alter Rebbe says.
הקדמה.
Exactly. V'zelo mazeh. Since everything, and just go back to chapter 6. Remember in chapter 6 we learned that just like the divine soul has 10 faculties and his own consciousness, we learned that the animal soul also has 10 faculties and its own consciousness. Same thing, right? Because God created the world in a perfect balance. Just like everything in holiness has it, so too its counterpart in unholy, in the Sitra Achra in the unholy, also has. So if the Torah mitzvahs, this is what page, Ira, you said?
320.
320 in this book.
320 in the new book.
Ron has a new book.
Oh,
So if the observance of Torah mitzvahs serve to elevate you, then what happens? So the 365 prohibitions in the Torah, the Chol Asiri Rabbanan, all the rabbinic prohibitions, right? Like the bringing Yamaka, since they are contrary to Hashem's will, and the very opposite of Hashem's will. What's the result if a person were to God forbid do them? They separate a person from Hashem's unity, but the complete and separation, just like the other side. What's so bad about idolatry? Wait, what's the question? If I told you, right, the Dodgers won the World Series, right? If I told you, no, the Yankees won the World Series, and you would say, okay, you want to be an idiot and believe it? Doesn't change the truth. If a person believes in idols, does that change the truth? If a person doesn't believe in God, does that mean God doesn't exist? God doesn't exist because you believe in Him. God exists because He is. So what do we care? What does God care so much? You want to believe in idols? You want to be an idiot? Okay. Like if God comes to you, the earth is flat. Okay, the earth is flat. I'm not bothering you. No?
I mean, you're disregarding the first commandment.
So God's a law and order guy. I said you got to do. First commandment, right? You know, by the way, I'll tell you a story. That I'm not sure it was Usher Kalman, I think it was Kalman, by Shavuot. We learned, Shavuot is a festival. We celebrate God giving us the Torah, 10 Commandments. So someone wasn't listening. Someone was listening to Tzira, one of the kids. So Kalman said, he's not listening to the 5th commandment, right? Honor your father and mother, right? So it's because, it's like this. The Eibishter, Yiddish, Eibishter is God. Eibishter is Yiddish for the one above. Oiben means above. The Eibishter is the only entity. Like if you learn the first line of Maimonides is to know, to believe and to know that He is the only entity. Everything comes from Him, and everything stems from Him. He is the reason for everything, and nothing is the reason for Him. So we are all dependent creatures. It's very important to know that. And once you have that mindset, your whole life is different. The biggest problems can be when you think, I'm my own guy. Everybody is dependent on Him. What does the forces of impurity basically say? That there's God and there's me. So imagine, for example, right? Ben is in aviation, you're in education, right? You're a pharmacist, right? You're in unemployed, right? Right? Let's call you for sake you're a social media expert, right? Imagine, for example, and I'm none of you, right? I gave an opinion. No, I'm saying I'm in none of your fields, right? Imagine I said, we're on a panel, for example. So and says something about how to advance something, but my opinion is it would say, exactly what are your qualifications?
Who are you?
Yeah, who are you, right? Next to God's opinion, who has an opinion exactly? Nobody. So the Sitra Achra says, God says, and then there's I say. Mm-hmm. That's basically that's the problem. Next to God, there is no I say. Did I ever tell you the story of the guy who was learning Gemara with my friend's father? My friend's father is a shliach in Glasgow, Scotland. They just celebrated 50 years in Glasgow. scholar, 50 years, long time. And he told me a story. He's a very British fella, very square. It actually brought me out for the month of Tishrei when I was like 22-year-old rabbi, man. We wrecked the place, man. Could you imagine? I'm an American Yankee, just rabbi, And out of all the Americans, I'm not the most conservative guy, man. Me and my friends, they weren't prepared for us. They had the desired effect because that's what they wanted. But this guy is very square. So he tells me a story. He says, one time, I can't even do his accent properly. Says, I was learning Talmud with a guy, a religious guy. And he said, Rashi says, blah, blah, blah. And I say, and he says, I closed the book and I said, I am not on the level of someone who's the same rank as Rashi. Basically, when Rashi says something, you shut your mouth and you listen. You don't have an opinion. Right? Rashi is up there. When God says something, there is no opinion. The problem with Sitra Achra is that just Rashi says, and as I say. God said, Sitra Achra means the other side. And as I say. And the problem is that the fallacy. No one, he is the only reality. And you say, Kamay Sitra Achra, it's like the Sitra Achra. Sitra Achra is Aramaic. Sitra Achra, Sad Acher, other side. V'aklipa, and a klippa that covers over godliness. Hanikra avodah zara. Why is it called a foreign service? V'lakim acherim. And other gods, machmas, why? Hester param shortzadalian, because it covers the truth of the true will. The chain, and you see, remember last time we called elakim achem other gods. Remember we called why do they exist? If God doesn't like them, why do they exist? Because in order to have balance, freedom of choice. So how does God keep them alive? Remember we said when a person has to give something when he doesn't want, like so to speak, he throws it over his shoulder. Remember that example we gave? Did we not give? Remember that? No, guys, no. Guys are not paying attention. That's. So we gave the example that let's say when someone has to do something, and not because he wants to, because he has to, he's forced to. So when I give you my face, I'm invested, right? When I do something because I don't have to, I sort of turn away from you. Fine. If we tell a kid, do it. I don't want to. No, go right now. Fine, he'll throw the toy back, not because he wants to. So God is forced to. We'll use that jargon. It's forced to in order to give us freedom of choice. So he's forced to give the forces of impurity life. That's what it's called a kimacherem. Not because it's the truth. For example, gim levoshe and nefesh meklubas neged Yisrael, and just as the forbidden actions themselves represent separation from Hashem, so too the three garments of the Jew's animal soul. Again, we're talking about this class is focused on the Jew, so we're not talking about the Gentiles. The thought, speech, and action. That when a person makes a choice to do what he's not supposed to do, at this point, amulvashim, they're clothed, b'shasal, salsa, in the 365 negative prohibitions, the Raisa of the Torah or the Rabbanim. And so now, it's not only your body, because remember, your divine soul is joined with your body. So wherever the body goes, the divine soul goes with it. I heard a story. I haven't been confirmed. A guy once asked the Rebbe about going somewhere. I can't remember if it was to a game or it was to a show. I don't remember exactly what it was. But the guy was clearly a Chabad Chassid. The Rebbe said, listen, you could do whatever you want. Just remember, wherever you go, you're taking me with you.
Go on what, Shabbat?
No.
Go to a game.
I don't know if it was a game or a show.
Entertainment.
It was something. You want to go to the game, don't ask the Rebbe. What are you, an idiot?
So you're answering the question to
No,
what
so-
happens when we do an Avera?
So when you do
If we do an Avera,
so the problem is, many times we think that when we do something we're not supposed to do, my godly self is over there. I'm just going to be over here, separate, and it doesn't work that way. Your neshama is with you wherever you go. So if a person goes into a place he shouldn't, then his entire being is going into that place.
So that means I should have gone to the Dolphin game?
Well, but did you sit all the way at that? You probably didn't even see the Dolphins.
Playing some junkie?
You're probably
No, I was
you were
sitting
probably
in the
closer.
bowl.
Oh, really?
Went to
Ooh.
a
I was
Dolphin
right behind
game?
I was right.
Yeah.
Actually, that's why it brought back so many memories for me.
You're
Ah.
rooting for the Jets?
Yeah.
Of course not.
Yeah.
Is that why? Is that
Yeah.
the conflict?
Exactly.
You
Oh, you
want
want
the
the
Dolphins?
So it says so not only
$100 a ticket.
nah
Yeah,
get cheaper.
no, it was pricey.
All right. So forget about the ticket, the hot dog. Said this. I brought my son. Brought my son to a game. Filed some bonding time. So last time, some guy gave me tickets to the Panthers. We sit down. Tati, when can we eat? I said we didn't come to eat. We came to watch the game. Finally, after a while, we had to go. He goes, most expensive pastrami hamburger. That's
How
a,
can you?
the Panthers have a kosher stand.
Really?
Yeah, Panthers, the Dolphins, the Marlins, all have kosher.
Yeah, they all have a kosher stand somewhere.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
No.
Hashem,
Yeah.
wow.
Anyway, so not only is your thought, speech, and action invested in this action, but it says v'chein, the same thing is mahus hanefesh atzma, the essence of your soul itself, that's clothed into the garments. Because remember, your thought, speech, and action, going back to chapter 4, are only garments. Your speech isn't you. Your actions aren't you. Your thought isn't you, because they're constantly changing. The you doesn't change. So the you is being expressed. Kulam. So at that point, your entire being, don't stop fooling yourself, guys. Kulam yichad mamish. Your entire being is united at that point. Besitzer achra, with the other side, anti-godliness. The klippa and the cover of godliness, zu nikra avodah zarah, which is called avodah zarah. Avodah zarah, by the way, doesn't mean idolatry. By the way, it's sometimes translated as avodah zarah. Avodah zarah literally means foreign service. You're doing something foreign. That's you don't belong, right? Like the story I told the Rebbe Marash, and although today is really the day of the Mittel Rebbe, it's told the Rebbe Marash, who went to, I'm very bad with names, who went to Paris. No, was it Rebbe Rashab? Sorry. Rabbi Rashab went to Paris. Rabbi Shalom Dever went to Paris, and remember I told the story. He rented the hotel room on the floor of the casino, and why? Because he walked into the casino. He went to a Jew and he said, "God," he said, "Mr. Young man, not kosher wine stuffs up your head and your heart." And he walked out. It happened 3 times until the guy got the message and he came to visit the Rebbe. Said why? Because when a person, not you, God forbid, when a person is occupied in something he shouldn't be, it's foreign. It's foreign to God. It's foreign to Judaism, which is equivalent to idolatry. Which is idolatry. It's foreign. It doesn't make sense.
So sorry to interrupt. What's the difference in that case? It says, I think in the Gemara, that Chazal trapped idolatry, right, or avodah zarah, and it's like we don't have that anymore.
So you're referencing, just for I guess, the Chazal tells us a fascinating idea that during the Second Temple times, during Second Temple times, the rabbis realized that the fight against idolatry, promiscuity, and consuming blood was a losing battle. The Jewish people were losing. So they prayed to God. They prayed to God that to take away, to remove the Yetzer Hara for idolatry. Or maybe this was at the end of the first temple. Actually, it was end of the first temple. Yeah, end of the first. And God acceded to the request, but as a result, we lost prophecy. Because remember, the very first words of chapter 24, everything in the world exists in a balance. The reason why there was prophecy, direct connection with God, was to combat this idea there's another deity. Once there's no more the belief, so prophecy ceased, as we see at the end of the first temple. Then they saw that was successful. They asked to take away the desire to consume blood. And God agreed. Then they agreed. Then they asked God to take away the desire for intimacy. And God said, okay. But the problem was that they went a couple days later and there were no eggs. This is what the Gemara says. Because as much as excuse my language, but sex is, we could purify it, but it's necessary, right? We need to give it. So the rabbis prayed to God to bring it back, but to a lesser scale. So you think now's a problem with pornography and everything else? Can you imagine what the world was? I mean, you've been to museums where you have paintings of ancient Rome and Greek. I mean, it's nuts.
Well, even not just ancient. I mean, you look at some of the Impressionist paintings. They're some of them are very
Caligula,
risque.
the emperor, was nuts.
Yeah, so I remember I went with Cyril. I don't remember which museum it was, but there was a massive painting of ancient Rome, orgies and food and everything else. I mean, they didn't make it up. It was obviously a representation of, yeah. So you were saying, sorry.
No, just we have no idea what avodah zarah is.
Right. Yeah,
in
we
their
don't.
terms.
Today we don't truly understand. Well, I'll tell you a different story. In the Gemara, I can't remember which rabbi. I'm very, very bad with names. So that's one of my. When I say stories, I'm good with stories, bad with names, terrible with names. So there was a king at the end of the first temple. He was the king of Judea. By the way, the Jews didn't exist there. Judea. His name was Menashe, and he was the king of the southern kingdom. The northern kingdom was called the kingdom of Israel. The southern kingdom was called kingdom of Judea. The kingdom of Israel was destroyed by the Assyrians 150 years before the temple. The temple was destroyed. Anyway, so this king Menashe was one of the last kings of Judea, and he was a king for 55 years. For 45 or 50 of those years, I think 50 of those years, he was terrible. When I say terrible, he was the worst king the Jews ever had. That's saying something. Not only was he's a sinner, rape, that maybe murder. He outlawed the service in the temple. He put idols. He blocked the road to the temple. He was a very, very bad guy. I mean, really, really bad guy. In fact, the Gemara says the story that at the end he wanted to do teshuvah. So God has angels, and angels are kind of in charge of processing, right? You have angels in charge of healing and everything else. So you have angels in charge of teshuvah. So when the application came in for teshuvah for Menashe, you know what the angels did? They took the application and they ripped it up. They said, this guy who was called a chayta hamachti. He was a sinner who caused other ones to sin. All of a sudden now he wants to change. It was so bad. He tried to change it, but the Jewish community was too far gone. That's how bad it was. I'm telling you. He's the standard. Anyway, so this rabbi in the Gemara, I'm not sure it was Rabbi or Rav Sheshes, I can't remember who it was talking smack about him. Talking in the yeshiva, talking about in Talmudic times, how bad this guy is. So Gemara tells a story that Menashe appears to this rabbi in a dream. He says, I understand you're talking smack about me. So you're a big rabbi. Let me ask you a question in halacha, because he asked him a question. Let's tell him purity and impurity, and he realized for the rabbi in Talmudic times he didn't have the temple anymore, so he didn't know. He says, "I don't know. You call yourself a big rabbi, and I asked you an easy question." He says, "How do you have?" And then you go turn around and you have lip about me. So the rabbi said, "Here I thought you were an ignoramus, and maybe that's why you were so wicked. But I see you were a scholar. So how, if you were so knowledgeable in Torah, why were you so bad?" So he says, if you lived in my time, this is Menashe tells this rabbi. I can't remember who the rabbi was. He was a big guy, a tzaddik. He says, if you lived in my times, you would be in the front of the line running to serve idols. You wouldn't be able to pick up the hem of your robe, of your pants high enough. You'd be running the fastest. We can't understand the desire to serve idols. To us, it's like, uga chaka. These people weren't stupid, by the way. I don't know, something, we think about, we think about, about a bunch of Indians dancing around the fire, or Indiana Jones, Temple of Doom kind of thing, a bunch of mindless idiots. The people who served idols were not mindless idiots. They were very intelligent, and they knew exactly what they're talking about. And they really believed it was, again, we read a lot of these things from the Torah and the Medrash, we think, well, these guys are dumb, idiots. We're the idiots, by the way. To quote the line in the Gemara, if our forefathers were angels, we're men, and if our forefathers were men, we're donkeys. Remember, we're the idiots. Like the old story with the two older gentlemen on the plane. One is an atheist, and one's a observant person. And they're both traveling with family. The atheist turns to the observant man and they says, "I don't know, you see your grandkids respect you. My grandkids, they don't have anything to do with me." He says, "It's simple. You say you come from monkeys, so they look at you as closer to a monkey. Me, we say God created us. We come from Sinai, so they look at me as one step closer." So, it's true. It's very hard, but that's not real. I know we went off but that's kind of like what we do here. But the concept of idolatry, forget about if we do it or not, but it means that there's a void, a vacuum, a supposed vacuum in the absolute unity of God. And it's forward. It's stupid, because that's not the truth. So
the concept of idolatry is not only worshiping these things, but also separating yourself from God by doing one of the 365 prohibitions.
Yeah.
In many ways, I think this story, if we connect the dots, in many ways, we know that this type of idolatry that we were talking about, pagan and all that, that we don't have that yetzer hara, we don't have that evil inclination towards that.
Right.
But I think,
however, it is towards, the phone and money and other things that can be part of these prohibitions.
or I was going to say, people still want to put other people on a pedestal, right? Oh, they idolize, because
The Prime Minister.
whatever. Taylor Swift wore this watch, and I want to be, like her. This person wore that, right? That's why we have pictures of, you go into a Jewish house. Who do you have? You have a picture of the Rebbe, picture of the Rambam. You want to aspire to their character traits. That's what it's about. So when a person, so now the Alter Rebbe is going to say something even further. So number one, a person does something wrong. Number one, he is united. He becomes one with the impurity. Then it goes a step further. V'lei oid, bottom of 313 in the old print. V'lei oid, and even more, not only that, not only is he one with it, el shebetelim utfilim ela. He is nullified to it. V'geruim u'pesuchim menem oid, and he's even worse than it. Why? Because think about this. God created. Remember that example in the end of chapter 7 with the prostitute? That God created the evil inclination. Why? To tempt the person. Not because God wants you to sin. God wants you not to sin. But the only way he'll know if you don't sin, if you have a temptation to sin. Like the king who wanted to test the moral, this is an example we gave in the end of chapter 7. The king wanted to test the moral character of his son. So he hires a prostitute to tempt his son. So he wants his son to pass. And even the prostitute wants the son to pass. But she got to do her job. The Yetzer Hara has a job to do. Evil, by the way, unlike the Christians who believe that Lucifer or the devil or whatever is an independent angel. We don't believe that. We believe God created impurity as a tool. So it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Right? Which is to deny God's existence. That's what it's supposed to do. So when a person has free choice, doesn't do what it's supposed to do, it's even worse, because you're going against God's will. The impurity, the forces of evil, it's not going against God's will. It's doing the Yetzer Hara does exactly what God says. It's abiding by God's will. The only creature that could go against God's will is a human being. So that makes you. So this is the whole discussion in the Gemara, in the Medrash. Why was the person created last? If a person does what he's supposed to, then he's like a guest, right? When you come, the whole table is set for you. You're the most important thing, right? And if a person doesn't do what you're supposed to, relax. You're the lowest. You're the last. You're the most insignificant. Because everything in the world, all the different billions and trillions of species, does exactly what it's supposed to do. The only thing that could rebel and not do what it's supposed to do, malfunction, is you. So don't get excited over yourself. You're absolutely nothing. You're absolutely zero. That's what he's saying. So can you imagine? It says, Kihi, for the klipa, He's not enclosed in a corporeal body. And the forces of impurity knows its master, and it does not rebel against it. Nothing bad happens because God wasn't watching. Now, by the way, we can go off on a tangent just on the subject. Nothing bad happened because God wasn't watching. So the Holocaust question or the October 7th question, it's a question because if God's always watching, why did it happen? That's the question, by the way. Like I never spoke about the Holocaust. The very fact that the question was a Holocaust means you believe in God. Because if you don't believe in God, it's not a question. Right? Nothing bad happens without God's hashkacha, with God say so. That's the way. Is it still recording, by the way?
Yeah.
Yeah. What God says so. So the forces of evil happen because God says so, and He decreed it to be so. As chas v'shalom, without independent of God says so. When God struck the death of the firstborn. By the way, you think the angel of death didn't kill the firstborn Jews because of the blood? That's why. You think if there was no blood, then he has the power to kill? Really?
Yeah.
No. The idea was that God wanted the Jews to express their belief and He's the one in control. That was the whole idea. That the Egyptians believed in multiple gods or nature. And God was trying to show the Jews and Egyptians, no, I'm the boss here. There is no other boss. So you're going to take the Egyptian God, you're going to slaughter it, and you're going to show it to, not only you're going to express it inside, you're going to express it outside. Like when in anti-Semitism, you're going to put a massive mezuzah, or like in ancient Christian times, they would put a menorah outside the door. You couldn't. It was a threat to your life and death. When the Jewish people put the blood on the doorpost, that was a crazy expression of belief in God. Because they went and slaughtered the Egyptian deity in their face. And not only that, they rubbed it in their face. It's not the blood that stopped the angel. God decides. The angel doesn't have free choice. God decides what to do. No one dies before their time. Everyone dies exactly when they're supposed to. For us, it's very hard to understand because you can say that about a 3-year-old who was crossing the street. How does that make sense? You're right. It doesn't always make sense. 100%. I'm not saying have the answer. But the answer isn't, God was having cup of tea. Or Malach HaMavis, the angel of death, did its own thing, rebelled. It doesn't work that way. So everything in the world functions exactly the way it's supposed to. Except for Rish Mendrik, who decides, no, I'm going to do what I want. You know what you are? You're malfunction. You know we do a malfunction, we throw it in the garbage. We go to Brandsmart, we buy a new one. That's right. So what are you worth? Bilam, and even Bilam. You know what Bilam is? Bilam was the greatest prophet ever lived. Do you know that? Yeah. It says in some ways he was greater than Moses. Right? And Bilam was a guy that hated Jews, and he wanted to destroy the Jewish people. He hated Torah and everything else. He's the epitome of impurity.
He also had a talking donkey.
He had a talking donkey. Right? No, the donkey spoke to him one time, right?
Oh,
But the kocho b'diburo, like his power was in his his speech.
Just like this. Yeah. Bilam is the ultimate example of when is enough. When your donkey starts speaking to you.
You had one too many.
You're right. That's too many brownies, right?
One too many.
Watching Shrek too many times.
Exactly. Yeah. That's great. Chamamer Bilam, and like Bilam said, even Bilam, the epitome, and he was the greatest prophet. When Balak says, why can't you just curse the Jews? Why can't you just do whatever you want? Bilam says, because I am not the boss. I am a tool. I cannot transgress, violate the words of God. And even the Avodah Zarah, even the forces of impurity, the God of all gods, they call him the God of all gods. Meaning, God is the boss, and I also have a say. I also have power. They cannot violate God's will. See, by the third plague, by the plague of lice, when Pharaoh told his magicians, guys, do this. They said, listen, certain things we could do, we can't do this. They acknowledge this is God, and they still hold themselves. Because they know, mastigim, they comprehend. And the comprehension who that God is the one giving them power and sustaining them. That they get their nourishment from the hinder, the back part that we said before. That they get their life force. Why? They're only here for a secondary purpose. They know that. Makif that we spoke about previously. That why is it called makif, encompassing? Because the guy's not truly invested. They're only there for a side reason. 3:15. The godly life force is in a state of exile. It's there because it has to be there. That's what exile is, not because it wants to. And what do? They consider themselves self-important, like some divine power. This is heresy. This is a denial of God's unity. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. There's the only one God. He's the only power, nothing else. But still, even though they hold themselves to be something important, and we'll do this one page. They don't totally deny God and say God doesn't have an opinion. They say I also have an opinion. To say no, he doesn't. He doesn't exist. And I'm the opinion. He's the master. He's the big boss. But we also have, Maimonides spoke about how did idolatry first get started. I mentioned this previously, where they said, "Oh, there's God," and obviously, He put the sun, the moon, and planets in the heavens. It's because He wants us to worship them because they have powers. The sun, helps with the planets and everything else. So there's God, and then there's His cabinet, so to speak. So they regard Him as God, recognizing that their life and their existence ultimately come because God says so from divine will. Therefore, the forces of impurity, whatever it is, can't rebel against God's will. So now, it's everything, even the forces of impurity, do everything what God says. Ha'adam, however, outside Yisbarach. So the person who violates God's will, who gerua, he's worse, upachos, and less. Harbimoid, tremendously more. Basiter achara, from the opposite of God, v'klippa, and the cover and the kres avodah zarah l'kim achem, which are called foreign service, and the other God. And this is tachlis hapiru. This is the ultimate separation. Hashem's unity. Nothing more. It's as if he totally denies God's unity. He totally denies God. He says, "There's God. It's me. I have an opinion. God's not my master. I can do whatever I want." There is no other creation that would dare say something like that. Will end off there. 3:16 in the old print. Like it says in the book of Kabbalah Eitz Chaim, 4-42, at the end of chapter 4. The evil in this world are the dregs are the lowest part. The dregs are the bottom of the dregs are. The bottom of a barrel of wine has like the sediments and it's the lowest. The sludge.
Here it's the same thing.
Right, the sludge, sediment to the purify. When you go through, right, when you're putting gold, right, whatever it is, you're going through you're purifying water, whatever it is. So you have the garbage.
Yeah.
That's what the evil is. But l'chein, therefore, afterwards, whatever sparks of good have been found in klippas have been isolated and elevated, remains. Right, if you're going through, you're looking for diamonds, you're going through the dirt. You find a diamond. What do you do with the dirt? You toss it. It's garbage. For this reason, all matters called all matters in this world are harsh and evil. For shame gave them, and wicked people prevail in it. Why? Because there's so much garbage, and not enough good. So the garbage. So you look at the world, it's garbage. So the evil prevails. But the truth of the matter is that's not the reality. It's your job as intelligent beings, as Jewish people. We have the gift of Torah. As Chabad attendees, you have the gift of Chassidus, to see the world for what it is. This is what Chassidus, by the way, is. Kislev is the month of Chassidic holidays. This is what Chassidus is. The job of Chassidus is to show the world for what it can be. Everyone say, "Oh, the world is terrible, and the world is evil, and the world is covered." Our job is to show the world what it's supposed to be. That's the job of a follower of the Rebbe, sitting in the Rebbe's Chabad house. That's our job. So we got to get to it. We got to bring Mashiach. We speedily not able to. Chaim.
Time.